showed that buffer there.
Yeah.
That would be the only portion that would be undisturbed?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the only property that would be undisturbed is, you know, along the creek there. That's right.
What is the average lot size in your proposal?
Well, these pink lots here are a minimum of 70 by 125. In comparison to that, if you drove through Brooks's neighborhood down at Altadena Ridge, those are 60 by 125. So if you built the same house here that's built down there, I don't know if you've ever driven through that neighborhood, what was the price range of the houses in the neighborhood there?
Those started in the 4s and went up into the 5s.
Okay. These
So we
houses,
started that 4 years
right.
ago.
Whereas on that, on a 60-foot lot, you have maybe a 40-foot house and have 10 feet on each property line, so that puts 20 feet in between each house. This at a 70-foot lot, that puts 50 feet in between each house. If you put the same house on the lot, if you put a 40-foot wide house, then you've got 25 feet over to the property line and 25 feet to the next house, so you got 50 feet in between each house, which is twice as what is down at Altadena Ridge. And I think when you drive through it, that's a good-looking neighborhood. And I know that neighborhood helped the values. If you look at what the values have done since that neighborhood started in Altadena on that side of Caldwell Mill, they've done nothing but increase. So I think this will do the same thing for this side.
Can I question the math there? If I got a 70-foot lot and a 40-foot house, that's 15 feet on each side, times 2 is 30 feet.
You're right, that's 30 feet. That's why David should be saying those questions instead of me.
Well, I want to point out, so this house, for example, we built this house in Altadena Ridge. Okay, and this house would be 49 feet wide, if I'm not mistaken, to fit on a 60-foot wide lot. So on a 70-foot wide lot, that would leave you 21 feet, so about, what is that, 10 and a half to each property line?
But then you got the other one on the other side.
Yeah, so it's 21 feet between houses. Did I do that math right, David?
I can't follow.
Can you math that? I think that's right.
So the actual lot size.
And then the other lots are these are 90 by 150. So that's 13,000 square feet.
But how does that translate into a percentage of an acre? Because like
An acre's 43,000 square feet. So
lots in this area are half-acre lots, and these are much smaller than half-acre.
well, like these would be 1/3 acres. An acre's 43,560 square feet, and if these are 13,500 feet or so, they're roughly about 1/3 of an acre.
So this is rezoned.
That's correct. That's if it's rezoned.
So how can you demonstrate to us that you actually need 8 more houses in order to make money? I mean, tell us the numbers. And why can't you stay within the current zoning? We accept probably, unfortunately, that property is going to be developed. But why can't you stay within the current Vestavia zoning laws?
Okay. Well, so, you know, I did a little research on MLS today. And all of Vestavia, anybody wants to come up and look at this after the meeting, they're welcome to. But in all of Vestavia, there were 28 houses sold over $1 million. There were only 3 sold in this school district of Vestavia. So 25 of those in the last 12 months. So only 3 houses over $1 million have sold in this area of Vestavia School District. And if I only do 19 lots to make the deal profitable and bankable and everything else, I'd have to sell lots at about $190,000 to $200,000 a lot. And if I sell lots at $190,000 to $200,000 a lot, that means a builder has to build about 4.5 to 5 times what he pays for a lot to make any money off the house. So if I have to sell lots for $190,000 to $200,000, that means he's got to build houses from $900,000 to $1,000,001.
That's what we want.
I'm sure it's what you want, but that's not
And look,
that's
it's
what
the
the
last 9 houses within a quarter mile of here since 2016 are all between $700,000 and $1.3 million.
Well,
All new development. All of them are all brand new.
I brought the numbers here to show you
Oh, no,
about
this area. I don't know
Houses
this.
right over here to show.
Yeah. That,
So those are
skewing the numbers. You can make the
$750,000
numbers anything you
I've
want.
got them all
Just
right
about
here.
a quarter mile of this area right here, $700 to $1.2 million. 1.32 in Jefferson County.
Well, I offered the other day, if somebody knows a builder in Birmingham that'll come buy 19 lots from me at $190,000, then we'll do 19 lots. But that does not make sense.
I wouldn't do it.
He won't do it.
Yeah, he's not in the market of building higher-end houses.
Okay, I deal with builders every day of my life, and I know there's not. If you can find a builder, I'm telling you, I'll do it.
David Acton built those three. We'll go to him right away. Why wouldn't he do it?
Call him.
Those
Okay,
three right there.
let me know.
What you're talking about, we're talking about quality of life here, and you're talking about quality of your profit margin.
Right.
And none of that makes any sense to us because we live here. You do not. I don't care where you said lived over here.
I understand.
And I don't care about Vestavia. We're talking about here and not Vestavia.
Right.
Okay? So that's where you've gone off track right now. Because Vestavia they like this place so much, they should be building a sidewalk. Not you.
Well,
And throwing this in and throwing that in to humor people. That's
I'm
not
not
where
trying
the
to
game
humor
is.
you. I'm trying to make it easy for you. If you live over there and you walk down your street and you almost get hit by cars, I'm trying to make it where you can walk out your front door
It's not
and
just about
stay
that.
off the road
It's about
and get over
quality
it.
of life. You didn't hear what I said.
That is
It's
quality of
not
life.
about sidewalks. It's about
I
quality
live on
of
that
life.
road. I don't care about the sidewalk.
70 cars coming That's out of exactly one road
right.
right here.
We have 1,000 cars a day passed up.
You're here to make a profit. We're here to tell you about quality of life.
So
And unless you understand that, you're not in the game.
thank you for the input. There's two questions on the list that kind of directly tie to that feedback. So if I can restate it, maybe one. So we have a lot of vehicle and traffic issues. You're clearly aware of that, and this will only make it worse. Are you being required to do a traffic study?
We'll do a traffic study. I mean, it makes sense to do a traffic study so that we all know the numbers and we know the impact of it. So I don't have a problem at all doing a traffic study.
But all you have to do is look at that number of houses trying to get onto that road, and you're gonna clear cut this area. Do any of the houses in this area look like that? None of them do. The closest you can get is up on Bridgewater where they built those houses on that cul-de-sac. That's as close as it gets, but nothing around here looks like that.
You got, I can't tell from here, but you got 10 or 11 houses on 5 Oaks Lane, and across the street there's only 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Those are postage stamp lots compared to ones across the street.
So is this Vestavia or nothing? I mean, I guess I'm trying to tie that up. I mean, is it already annexed into Vestavia, or it will be?
It will be.
So it's
Well,
not
I would-
Vestavia or
well,
nothing.
You gotta get
If-
it annexed. You gotta get
It
approved.
has to be annexed and they have to approve it. That's correct.
But if I mean, as far as
So
if
annexing.
Vestavia, if the county approves it, are you still going to do the same thing if it's Jefferson County?
So annexing is different than rezoning. The piece of property can enter into Vestavia and not be rezoned. It could be rezoned and not annexed, or it could be rezoned and annexed.
Now answer.
So Jefferson County could rezone.
But are you gonna proceed if it remains Jefferson County? That's the question.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I think his question was, are you
Yeah.
going to proceed if it fails annexation into Vestavia and remains Jefferson County? Was that your
I mean,
question,
I bought
sir?
the property. I'm going to develop something on it. That's correct. If it's in Jefferson County or Vestavia, something will get developed. That's correct.
How much do you pay for the property?
You can look up on the tax maps what I paid for it. I paid
$840?
$878,000.
I know it.
You're just checking to see if he's honest. She does that to me too.
You need to build that many houses if you only paid $800,000.
Because of development costs. Because of all the development costs that'll have to be done to turn this into lots.
But you don't have to get rich off of it. I mean,
Yes, you
seriously.
can.
That road ain't cheap.
I have a question. Can I ask one about, you hadn't broached this yet, but you mentioned leaving the trees. What about during the construction? Are you gonna bulldoze everything but these trees? And how are you going to, what BMPs are you gonna use to keep Altadena Creek free of sediment?
And we have a kind of a compound question. If I can call on you to come up and ask that, thank you.
I'll add to that. I'd like to talk about water.
Could you repeat that question, please?
He's about to ask it.
I'd like to focus on water for a moment, if I will. I live on the creek downstream, first house downstream of this event. So I've dug in on some water concerns, and one thing that I've done recently is I've walked the creek with the Cahaba River Society just yesterday. We went from behind Lifetime Fitness all the way behind a few of the homes back in here for a couple hours and documented everything. And so there's quite a few of concerns. Dr. Haddock, who has got a PhD in this field of water mitigation, has described this as a graphic illustration of advanced erosion. Those are his words, not mine. That is the state of Altadena Creek currently. Much of this was caused by the development of patchwork farms in recent years. That's why we have unprecedented flooding in this zone. Any additional development will put pressure, positively as a fact, as I'm standing here on that creek. So the ADAM, the Alabama Department of Environmental Management Group, and their permitting, the MS4 permitting that you mentioned, is not adequate to basically handle these rain events that we're frequently having. So we're having 100-year floods every year. And so the MS4 permitting, as it reads, requires the same flow rate pre-construction with a 1.1 inch rainfall, and to match that event with 1.1 inches of rain flow rate post-construction. Is that what we're referring to, gentlemen? The MS4 permitting on watershed? When we talk about what you got to put in front of the city. So
there's two, it's more than just that, but yeah.
Okay, so my question to you would be, because the city and the state's guidelines for mitigating water along this creek have proven to be inadequate. We know that. So what are you willing to do above and beyond the ADAM's guidelines and the city of Vestavia guidelines to protect this creek from whatever happens on that property? Above and beyond the minimal guidelines. That's what I'm interested in knowing.
Well, just like he said, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen, so we obviously don't want to do the minimal guidelines.
But that's what everybody does. That's what every developer does.
I hear you. But look, when you're talking about, I mean, take Brooks's development over at Helen Ridge, for example. How big is that development and how many feet?
I don't want to talk about
Well,
Helen Ridge.
the point
Not a
is,
good
the
example.
point is that's a big site.
We care
That's a
about
big
this
site.
It's
This,
an awful site. I
I've
don't want
got
to talk about
800 feet here
It
that
makes
I've
me
got
cringe
that I've
to
got to
think we're not,
protect.
all right, let me do you a favor. We're not referencing Helen Ridge as a model for this
I was
property.
just trying to tell you that this is a small site that we can beef it up really, really thick because it's not a
You're
big
going to
site.
have to, yeah.
Yeah, we realize that. We'll have to, yeah. But I'm just trying to say on a smaller site like this, it's a lot easier to beef it up and maintain it than it is on a bigger site. That's all I was
My
trying to say.
question
But
was
you
about
didn't answer
during
my question.
construction, not after.
You did not
During
answer my
construction.
question.
David, when you design the BMPs for this, we need to triple down on on the minimum that can be done. You know, I can't tell you every single thing that we would do. Let the engineer
You're gonna
design
have
it.
to at one point.
Let the engineer design it. We don't know right now. They ain't even drawn plans for it.
But wait, let me get back to my question, because we're talking about after construction. So the Cahaba River, which this feeds into, is a tributary. The Cahaba River is listed on the 303D list, Clean Water Act, as an impaired water for sediment. This is going to feed in there. So during construction, how are you going to keep your sediment from heading to Altadena Lake and then into the Cahaba, which would be, now you are looking at a potential loss under the Clean Water Act. So how are you going to do that? I've never seen a developer, including that building right there. We busted them several times, and they had all kind of BMPs. They just don't work. So how are you going to enhance your BMP? Because we're going to be watching this creek. We're going to be monitoring this creek like hawks. So how are you going to do that?
Well, I'm going to ask the engineer to design it as
Well, let's
thick as
ask
they
him
can
now.
design it.
I mean, he's
And
right
then
there.
implement.
What are you going to do?
Well,
lots of tools that can be used for stormwater mitigation during construction runoff. The biggest and most effective is obviously using a retention pond that captures, ideally you want all of your water to go through something like that. We can use polymers in the trail from raindrop to concentration to detention to discharge to help mitigate that. Now look, I'm not naive, you're not naive. Silt is going to get off the side. That's something that happens during construction.
It can't get in that creek.
Well, there's silt getting in that creek now, okay?
It ain't yours.
Yeah, it is. There's silt, I guarantee you right now, there's silt getting off that side into that creek every time it rains,
Why don't you design BMPs and we'll let our expert look at your design and we'll see if we agree.
We'll be happy to do that. I mean, we have meetings on the regular with the guys from the Cahaba River Society and the guys from the Cahaba River Keepers to have input from them on what the latest and greatest technologies that they're aware of, so that we can implement them in the kind of designs that we do. Believe me, it's one of the biggest hurdles we have to jump every time that we do a design project is dealing with erosion control. And some, you have construction projects, it's not a laboratory. We're going to implement every tool that we can implement, and we're going to try our best to keep anything from getting off the site, and that's all we can do. And we've got tools and we've got technologies that are evolving every day, as you know. If you're aware of erosion control, as you obviously are, you know that it's an evolving science, it's a new science, quite frankly. The idea of silt fences were a strange idea back in the 90s, and the 90s weren't that long ago. So this technology is evolving every day, and we're trying to implement everything that we can. And believe me, if you've got ideas that will help us in doing erosion control, I'm open to listen.
One idea would be to move back and put a huge buffer between you and this creek. Like not 100 feet, but whatever the expert says, a huge buffer. Bulldozers ain't gonna cut it.
And so I think the key thing here is we need to see the plan. So one of the questions we have for the neighborhood is, when will you be providing the engineering plan for the water management?
As soon as we can.
Like, do you have a approximate timeline?
We have to provide that to the city before annexation.
It's as part of the zoning.
As part of the zoning, and that zoning hearing is October 19th, I believe.
So it has to be before October 19th?
That's correct.
Okay.
We don't trust Vestavia.
And we're not suggesting that we should just trust them.
We're fine with you guys hiring an engineer and reviewing whatever we're turning in and consulting with someone.
So we must have the plan by the 19th, at which time we can review it. Lane, did you?
Yeah, and in closing on the water, the easiest way to mitigate the water is actually have less impervious surfaces, which means less lot size density, and be true to the neighborhood, which is what the volumes are talking to. So that's the first line of defense, is build less homes.
Right.
We start there. So it's not the technologies and the polymers that we're interested in. We're interested in reducing the number of homes.
That's
I
not
can
necessarily
assure
true.
you,
It is
by
true.
my experience, the polymers are going to get used from the effluent to the influent of this waterway right here. The polymers is BS. I mean, they do get into the existing waterway. I don't care what you do, they will get there.
David, I got a question, because obviously, and I'm with Russo, so we do work with David as well, but I've got skin in this game because I live on Avondale Lake, and we got a swamp in our backyard. But that plan, and he can design a plan, but it's only as good as the enforcement that it's under, and that enforcement was subpar in areas in some other developments. So who's going to be in charge? I mean, I do this every day, so I get enforced, and we fight this battle because we can't compete with folks that are going to cut corners. And so he's going to be trying to make the most money he can, as well as you are. So what corners are going to get cut in erosion control, because it's going to happen.
Well, and because you're in the game too. I mean, the idea of cutting corners on erosion control is not a way to save money. I mean, one thing that you learn real quick, if that becomes part of your game plan is ADEM will find a way for that fine to make up for that whatever monies that you cross off. Not to mention that, I mean, everybody's already thrown it around out here that it's the quickest way to get yourself sued too. So, I mean, these guys know, and these guys have done it enough times to know that you don't cut corners when it comes to erosion control.
Are you not concerned about the creek flooding into the neighborhood? I mean, how are you going to guarantee to the people who have spent all their money buying your homes that their property is truly safe and safe from this creek? Not just worrying about the erosion, but protecting these properties.
Sure, we're aware that there's existing floodplain there. We're aware that we have to deal with that. The home sites, however, are going to sit significantly higher than the floodplain.
And is there a particular reason why the reservoir thing, I don't know the lingo well, is on that back side of the property? Because there is so much water coming off the mountain across Five Oaks. That came up at another meeting, and if you've ever, my son likes to track the deer around here, and that property is a mud slop after a big rain.
Right.
So there are a lot of water issues on that property that y'all need to be sure you address well.
And I've summarized that, all of the different ingress points and the different pipe sizes in the voice of the community document. I don't think we shared that with you, but I'll make sure you have that. But to your point, because I actually am responsible for one of those that crosses the street and dumps on there, it's a 30-inch pipe and it has overflowed. So yeah, a lot of water.
And to your point, this is a conceptual plan, and the size and location of this detention pond, whereas it needs to be somewhere near the bottom, gravity kind of dictates that. But where exactly that's going to sit and the shape of it are going to be determined once we get.
There's another one up top too.
Right. You know, this is kind of a halfway point where we catch it off the back of these lots and try to, like you guys said, we're, you know, sort of what you were talking about. If we can step that through a couple of different places for it to settle, it's a, you know, better situation for us.
Could you demonstrate to me where the water retention is on the lot, the 19 lot map, please?
I don't know that I've seen the 19 lot map.
We haven't drawn any water detention on that.
Okay. I couldn't help but notice that.
And this is kind of a dumb question, but where are the ins and outs to those lots? Where do you go in and where do you come out?
The driveways.
I don't know that I understand your question.
The roads in and out to the property. The roads in and out of the property. The streets.
Well, the entrance is off Caldwell Mill, and then all of these lots feed off of that road with driveways.
This one road?
It's a single road with a cul-de-sac.
And then the lots that face Five Oaks have driveways coming straight to Five Oaks.
So it would add like 8 driveways onto Five Oaks, and then there would be one road entering Caldwell Mill here across from Lane's house.
I don't know who that is, but I assume.
Yeah, everything except the name. I have just a couple last questions. Let me get through before the light gives out here. We talked about home prices. Thank you. Regarding the style of homes, are you building another Helen Ridge? Sorry. What will be the square footage, style, and variety of these homes? And can we see the actual home designs? And I know you've provided this visual here, but if you could speak just in a little bit more detail about finish and variety. I've heard people ask, is it the Cotswolds or is it Helen Ridge? And I'm sure there's some options in between there as well.
Yeah, no, it's this right here. I mean, it is Helen Ridge, right? And Steelmont, if you guys are familiar with Steelmont that we did, and a lot of these are built in Liberty Park, actually. I have heard it said that we don't want an all white painted brick community like Helen Ridge, and no, that is not going to happen over here. That was something we did just for Helen Ridge, and here it'd be a much bigger variety of color palettes, mostly earth tones, with some painted brick, but we would definitely keep that to a minimum. And we have rules about what color palettes can go next to each other and what house plans can go next to each other, so that we don't have the same plans going all on a road together like that. So it would be a lot like what you see here.
What was the square footage again?
The smallest one would be about 2,200 square feet, but they go all the way up to about 3,800.
How many of them would be the 2,200 square foot?
Probably very few, but
I don't need few. How many?
The market dictates that. I would think most of the time, if our other communities are a proxy for this one, our average home price or home size will be around 3,000. So we'll have some on either. In fact, our best selling floor plan is called the Rosemont, and it's on the upper end.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you building in Eagle Point?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Last two quick questions here, and then I'm done with the pre-written ones. So, the site plan, the detailed landscape plan, and the topo map, is that all going to be provided by October 19th as well? Okay, and you'll share that with us so we can get it out to everybody. Thank you so much. And then the last one, and this has to do with the bridges. I think you've seen some of the concerns. So the question is, what route do you plan to use when transporting heavy equipment and materials?
Well, we've had a discussion with the county commissioner for the area, and the county has this bridge on the docket to be replaced, I believe in either 2021 or 2022, and we're trying to, as far as once the development's approved, then it's a year probably before he starts building houses. So you bring in some equipment to do all the development work, and then it's probably 9 months to a year before he starts bringing in brick trucks and things like that to build the houses. So we were trying to coordinate with the county to time this bridge being replaced before the actual house construction begins.
Wouldn't you have a lot of heavy equipment and truckloads of dirt during the ground development as opposed to the house construction?
Well, you wouldn't have lots of loads of dirt. He would design a plan that balances the site so that you cut dirt from one side and fill it to the other. You don't haul in dirt or haul off dirt.
So are you saying there's 9 months between when you grade and then he builds? It's like what happens?
There's 9 months to a year between when we put the first piece of equipment on the property to start building the roads and the sewers and the waters and the detention and everything else, and he actually digs a footing to start building a house.
Okay.
You don't have to have big trucks to haul off all the trees, aren't you?
Well, we'll probably grind all the trees on site, and we'll probably haul off some of the larger logs, yes, but there's not that many big trees that are up on the bulk part of the property. They all got taken down in the hurricane. It's a lot of privet and smaller stuff, tornado, that privet and smaller stuff that'll be put in a tub grinder and ground.
And the mulch from that, you'll use it on site?
The mulch will be hauled off, it'll be spread out on site. Right. It can actually be used for.
It seems like if I heard earlier that it was at 19 homes and then it went to 29, back to 27. The concern is the amount of homes, surface, water runoff. Is 27 in stone?
Nothing's in stone.
Okay.
Connor, I'll say a word to that if I can. I'm Doug Acton. I live here at 2834 Acton Place. Been here 30 years. When I saw this development, the first thing I did, I called Connor. I saw the 19 lots, which I didn't like. I saw the 29 lots. I didn't like them either. I said, Connor, that's too many lots. We gotta, see if we can cut that down. The one thing I like about it, the first thing I saw was this park. The church has done a great job on starting something that could be really nice right here. So the first thing I asked Connor, I said, how can we get you involved? If we get this developed and get it approved, how much can you give us to help us develop the pavilion?